Okay, good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you could, let's all rise for the pledge. Jason, would you mind leading us, please?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jason. Mine is not updating, or is it? Okay, so we have nothing on there? Okay, there we go. Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
President Griffin,
Here.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Cordell, Director Rotora,
Here.
Vice President Saint Amant.
Present.
Okay, item 4, posting of the agenda declaration.
The agenda for tonight's regular board meeting was posted on Friday, October 8th, 2021.
Thank you. Any conflicts of interest to declare?
None from Rotora.
None for Boyd.
None for St. Amand. I am an employee of the federal government, but my opinions are my opinions alone and not necessarily reflect either my employer or the board of directors of the Indian Wells Valley Water District. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have one potential conflict of interest in closed session on property negotiation, so I will be recusing myself during closed session. Okay, item 6, public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you are recognized by the chairperson, please state your name and address for the record. Do we have any public comments that are not on the agenda?
And
I don't think that mic's on. Okay.
Nope. I'm on. I'm on? Okay, very good. No bribes allowed here. Okay. Everybody's been anxiously awaiting the adjudication lawsuit information. That hasn't happened so far. Anyway, hope we're going to hear a little bit, at least about something about that tonight. Didn't see it on the agenda. But as you all know, the GA is being a source of consternation to lots of people in the valley. A lot of distrust has been generated, especially over the last several weeks or month or so. But anyway, as I promised, one more time, I'm going to bring my GA fee paid tonight in protest at this meeting. I'm going to continue to do that. Hopefully, the adjudication will get some kind of injunction against this fee. And I assume we're going to talk about their attempt to bond out more debt on top of our heads later on in the GA section of the meeting. But this has got to stop.
Jim, is there a quick answer to his question regarding the workshops?
Yes, staff is actively working on a campaign right now that we've just started. We're working with the district's existing marketing tools, social media, and I think that the public will see something very shortly in terms of an increased messaging from the district.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Neal. Any other public comment? No calls? Okay, before we move to item 7, I would like to, as the president, give our condolences to Vice President Saint Amand. He's had the loss of some family members, and we're very saddened by that. And our best thoughts are with you and your family.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, item 7. Sorry about that. Consent calendar, item A. Approval of board meeting and minutes, accounts payable, disbursements. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So move. Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comments on the consent calendar? Okay, ready to vote?
It's a fad. They are going to go away.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
One question. The, on the payables, it said something like 700 and something thousand to the county
That's,
bond.
that's us paying ourselves. We're taking the connection fees from last year, the capacity fees, and putting them into a fund because they're restricted and can only use for expansion purposes. And so those went in for last year, or it's part of the funding for the new tanks we're doing. So as we go along, we'll be pulling that back out to pay.
Thank you.
Okay, 7B, Plant and Equipment Committee. Renee, do you want to give us
Yep.
this? Thank you.
All right, number one is oh, hell. Is that a comment on something, or is that just somebody on hold? Okay. Oh, all right. Number one is the acceptance of contract work for NG Services. This is for the ground mount fixed tilt solar PV system for well 35. They have completed their work. The original contract amount was $600,390. We did have one change order due to delays caused by COVID, which resulted in an increase in storage costs, labor costs, materials costs, all the above. So that change order was for $52,377, bringing the final contract amount to $652,767. So all items have been completed on that contract. We don't have any, nothing has been filed against that at all. And so once you accept the work, I'll file a notice of completion. And then after an appropriate lien period, we'll make the final payment of retention of $26,634.45.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item before we take it to the board? Okay, we'll close public comment and bring it to the board for any discussion, and I would be looking for a motion to accept the contract work.
I would move to accept the contract work. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Go ahead and call for the vote. Okay, thank you. Passes 5-0. Okay, and this is item 7B2, authorizing resolution number 2105, authorizing district representative to submit application to drinking water state revolving fund for Dune 3.
Yes. If you remember, the district agreed to consolidate with the Dune 3 Water Company. And part of that process to obtain funding through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, it's not a loan, it is a grant. And so this resolution authorizes a representative to act on behalf of the district to sign, file, provide any other documentation needing for the financing agreement. And that's what this is for, and the committee, Plant Equipment Committee had recommended approving the resolution. Any questions?
Okay, do we have any public comments on this item?
Judy Decker. Yes, I have some questions. What are the boundaries of Dune 3? And by consolidation, do you mean that you are going to take them into the water district? boundaries and eventually serve them water?
Do you want me to answer that? Yeah, they are already within district boundaries, Judy.
I thought they were.
Yeah. So all their infrastructure is being replaced as part of the grant funding. It's being, the state is hiring actually the engineering firm, the contractor, and everything. We're just overseeing the whole thing. So all their pipelines, we're going to be destroying their well. All that stuff is being replaced because it is not up to district standards.
This includes the northern part of Strucker?
They are, no, they're, trying to figure out off the top of my head. They're south of Ward, north of Drummond, between Calvert and Strucker. And
Okay,
they're-
thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you, Judy. Any other public comments? Any board comments? I just have one question, which I'm sure they answer already, but I want to make sure. There will be no cost to those customers to hook up for meter sets or anything like that. Is that correct, or will they?
That's all going to be rolled into
The
the
grant.
grant funding.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's what I want to make sure.
And just so people know, this is a voluntary consolidation.
Yes, they
Yes.
requested it.
Yes.
And no cost to us as well.
Correct.
Both important.
Okay, so I will be looking for a motion.
So move.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
President Griffin,
Aye.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Cordell,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Aye.
Vice President St. Amant.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, 7C, Association of California Water Agencies nominee and elect president and vice president for the 22-23 term.
Well, the offices of president and vice president are two-year terms, and this is the year that the incumbents are terming out. So at the Aqua Conference, they typically do the election. In the past, we've always had somebody there designated, the board designates somebody actually do the vote, conduct the vote. At this time, nobody's registered to go, so they are allowing a virtual voting. So what needs to be done is the board needs to designate somebody to do that. Could be a director, could be myself. I've done it a couple times. Don Corchado, I think the last few years has done it, has served that role. Typically, the vice president is normally elected into the president's position. That's Pam Tobin. And then there's a new vice president that's being recommended by Aqua. But anyway, bottom line is we just need somebody appointed as a delegate to vote on behalf of the district for those two positions. And that, I think it's December 1st, I believe.
All right, thank you, Don. Do we have any public comment on this? Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Do we have a board member that would like to attend this in person? And if so, state your name. If not, my suggestion would be to just have Don do it virtually.
Good idea.
Do we know where it is?
It's in Pasadena, I believe.
Right. It's in Pasadena this year.
IA is also that week,
I believe the
the
whole.
29th and 30th, and I'm planning to go to that. So I could be there if it's of value to the district to have somebody represented there. I could do that fairly easily.
I think if you're willing to go, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
So, okay, well then do we need a motion or anything to do that? Okay, we do need a motion to appoint Director Boyd. So I would be looking for a motion to appoint Director Boyd.
I make a motion that we send Mal.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Mallory's the only one who hasn't voted.
I have to abstain, I think, don't I?
No, you can vote.
No, if you wanted
Yeah, I'm
to.
not-
Just, you know where your friends are anyway, man.
Thank you. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, item
I
7D.
say just for clarity, we have a position that we support Pam's nomination to the president?
I believe that's what we discussed in our committee, that it was pretty much already predetermined, but unless somebody has a different opinion of that. I just got a text also that if we would all speak into our mic, they said they cannot hear us very loud, watching online, so.
Candidate information will go to admin exec next month and the board, so we can firmly decide on somebody to vote for.
Thank you. Okay, item 7D, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Stan, would you like to give us your report?
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that we had a lengthy phone con with RGS, our management group, on the finance report, and Don Zadiba and myself represented the Water District. There was one member of the staff from the county, Kern County. RGS did agree to put more detail into the reporting. And of course, we obviously need more details in the reporting because we want to know where our money is being spent. So right now, I guess we're in a kind of a wait and see, what really comes about as a result of that meeting. I would note that the October 13th board packet did come out today, and it did not have a finance report in it. I'm not sure if that means anything one way or the other. Another finance issue, the budget, the FY22 budget, the Joint Powers Agreement requires the 22 budget adopted 60 days before the end of FY21, which is roughly the first week this November. I know RGS is spending a good deal of time looking at that, and that is synergistic with obviously the finance report, because the better RGS understands the line items, the better they can report out on them. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next year's budget. Although I think based upon what we heard in the phone con, it's not going to be ready this month, and we probably are going to slip from the actual due date required by the Joint Powers Agreement. Just a comment or two on the audit. The 2020 FY ended December 31st. The audit has been commissioned, but at this point in time, we do not actually have an audit for the last fiscal year. So I'm hoping that we can get that done before we have to make out next year's budget. So I'll be keeping you abreast of how the audit is going. Off of finances onto more activities. It turns out the water year ended September 30th, and therefore the water year 21 annual report is going to be due to DWR on October 1st. I think you remember the problems we've had the last 2 years in that the report went out basically from the staff, and the TAC and the PAC, nor the board got to actually review or comment on it. So I'm going to try to keep track of that and make sure that we get status inputs but before the report is actually due. A couple months ago, the GA had some discussion regarding transferring the basin model from the Navy to the GA for custody. And so I'll be watching that as well. That could be very important to the adjudication. So we want to make sure that transfer of custody actually is complete. The Shallow Well Impact Program is still in process. I think they apparently, it appears, are taking the comments from the PAC and the TAC seriously, because they're taking quite a bit of time to update that document based upon the TAC and the PAC inputs. One of the things that we discussed in our board meeting last month was to initiate the possibility of transferring the replenishment fee from a 5-year program to a 10-year program. Now, I haven't had a chance to actually try to put that on the agenda yet. But I've heard in the meantime that maybe we didn't get a consensus regarding making the replenishment fee go from 5 years to 10 years. So before I start putting any real effort into trying to do that, I want to make sure that we really do have a consensus. So if, after I'm done, and if you would, the default, as far as I'm concerned, is I thought we're going to look at going to 10 years or at least discussing that option. But if you're not in favor, I want to know now before I put any real effort into trying to get that on the agenda. The PAC had its second meeting on the 23rd of September. It covered primarily, if not totally, the communication and engagement plan. And I believe there'll be a report out at this October meeting. And I believe, based upon listening to the meeting, the consensus of the group was that the plan is actually adequate and doesn't need a lot of major changes or even perhaps minor changes. But my sense, and listening to the comments, was that, you know, the plan obviously didn't have a crystal ball and couldn't foresee COVID. And so even though the plan is good, the execution left something to be desired just because of COVID. But we'll find out when the report comes out. And there have been no TAC meetings, although again, the TAC has been individually, members have been tasked to review things and get them back. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions anybody might have.
Okay, thank you, Stan. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment on Stan's report or any other comments about the GA, and then we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Yes, I have several comments. I have a grave concern, and the concern is when the Groundwater Authority Board adopted the replenishment fee, they adopted it under Prop 218, and they adopted it for the issue of water rights and an additional water supply. In particular, they discussed imported water without zeroing in on a particular project. If you look at for tomorrow, the GA report, the board package, and the board package from last month, they are spending replenishment fee money on other things. And this is a grave concern because you can adjust the meaning of projects slightly so that replenishment fee monies will be used for other things. And we all know that nature is not being bountiful when it comes to rain in California or snow. And so, but more and more people keep coming, and everybody needs water, and there just isn't any. So importing water is going to be extremely expensive. And my big concern is that the GA board is going to use this replenishment money for other things. And as far as the finances go, Stan, there's quite a few pages this month on spending, on what funds were used for, but there's no indication whatsoever of how much replenishment money they've received thus far, how much pumping fee money they've received thus far, and I think that also is something that both the board and the public needs to know. I have a concern about the shallow well mitigation plan. If I read the board package correctly, and I didn't read it super carefully, but I did read it, it sort of appears to be finished. There's nothing in Mr. Johnson's report about reviewing the shallow well mitigation plan and sending it back to the board for review. It appears, if one reads it, it appears to be finished. And I believe that's something you need to investigate. And I had one more thing. Well, I can tell you that as being assigned as a PAC committee member to look at the communications plan in that subcommittee, we have come up with a few things. We are not in agreement, however. One of the things that we will be presenting at the PAC meeting is a fact sheet that the GA, if they adopt it or take it and change it to their own needs, would have available for those people who come to the GA board meetings and don't even know where their water is coming from. And these are lifelong residents, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Couple quick responses. Typically, the income, the revenue from the pumping fee and the replenishment fee would be in the finance report if there was a finance report. There wasn't one so far. I'm assuming we'll see something tomorrow. Regarding the shallow well, I didn't get the impression in reading it, although what's there is very, very terse, so I maybe just interpreted it differently than you. But I got the impression they were still working on it and that it would be going soon, whatever that is, to the TAC and the PAC for review. So, but we can talk about that tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay, Mike Neal again. All this time that there's been conversation about the financing and the accounting and where does the money go and how's it being spent and so forth and so on, and is the replenishment fee being spent for water replenishment or any and every other thing? I've been in agreement about that needs to stop. There needs to be some much better transparency and better holding to what the money is supposed to be spent for. But now I begin to wonder if there's a whole lot of point to that, because we literally, at this point and for some time, have had one GA board member who really even cares about that. That's Mr. Matora. The others have given for pretty much the whole time that the board's been in place. Every appearance of being puppets or being led from behind the scenes as to the decisions that need to be made and how they need to be made and how things need to be done. And the money has been resisted just vociferously from the start, particularly by Mick Gleason. We don't want, we don't need a finance committee. We don't need to do that. We'll just have an auditor. Just every put off that you can come up with for any kind of real accountability. But when it gets right down to it, what's to be done about it? These guys aren't elected. We can't vote them out of office. The only thing that could possibly be done is take them to court, have put another lawsuit on the books against the GA. And in that case, you would have to, come up with some kind of criminal misspending of the money to even do that. I don't mind doing, speaking up and voicing objections and exposing things. I've been doing that for years, but I also know what it feels like to do that for years and make no progress, because the agencies a lot of times just they don't care, and they know they can do what they want to do regardless of what 3 or 4 citizens in town have to say about it. And that's basically what we've got going with that situation with the GA. So, I appreciate Stan being persistent and speaking up, but, this whole entity putting itself in place in the face of the public, after people time and time again saying we need an elected board, completely ignoring that, gives them total immunity, really, from any accountability to the citizens of this valley. And that seriously needs to change. And I don't know what possibly actually would need to happen to make it change. Maybe the adjudication lawsuit, that could be folded into that also. I have no idea, I'm not a lawyer. So I would urge that to be put in with the court proceedings so we can change that, because this is literally, although, of course, not tons of people attend, there are a lot more people paying attention now because they see the effect on their pocketbooks and they're going, oh, wait, what are these guys doing? So they're perking their ears up. And the few that find out, well, these guys aren't even elected, they're just literally, they're outraged. They're outraged that they can be taxed. And, we have stuff like what Ms. Decker just talked about. Well, what about the shallow well mitigation fund? Well, best I can see with that is that's just a placeholder for them to make it another excuse to charge us a fee, and they don't do what they need to do. There's probably people out there that need to make use of that fund. They got a well going dry, but they don't even know that they can do that. And the GA is not trying to make contact. They say that they know how many there are. That means they got to know where they are, what they are. But from every indication, there hasn't been one shallow well mitigated, but the money's been taken from us. So that's yet, another example of that it just appears to be a big money sink. And now we got, again, we only find this out, I think, today, literally, that they wait till the day before the meeting to put out the full board packet. So people can't really be informed unless they want to stay right on top of it, drop everything, look at the PDF, read through it and digest it, and get educated before the next day comes up, before the meeting occurs, that they're going to be talking about it. Now they want to go and talk about putting bonds out. And so they couldn't get you guys to finance a replenishment fee and commit to 30 years of financing to pay that for them. So now they're going to drum up some way to try to go out and get bonds. Who under heaven's name knows what they're going to say they got some basis to qualify for bonds for, but this is obviously now they want to finance it themselves, which means it's not them, it's us. They're going to finance it, and the burden's going to be put on the citizens. Once the money, assuming that happens, the money's given out, they're going to go spend it. The only thing they're really good at is spending money. That's a proven fact over the last number of years. They can spend money like water, pardon the pun, and it goes away, it's gone, it's out of our pockets. We're never going to get it back. And if they get a bond and they get, whatever, $25 million, it'll disappear real quick, and we'll be beholden for it. And I don't have any realistic expectation that we'll get anything at all for it. So I really would like to see this adjudication lawsuit get going and an injunction against something like that being done by the GA board, because they see what's coming down the road, and I think they're trying to spin their wheels up and get that in place before it could be stopped in court. And that really, really needs to be stopped.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Any other public comment? Okay, I'll close public comment. We'll bring it to the board for any discussion.
Just a quick
No,
comment.
I'll-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Neal's got me pretty upset right now. Plus, I agree with everything he said. We have an obligation to our ratepayers. Other than throw money at the GA, we just gave him another check for $575,000, around approximately. We have no financial records whatsoever from them. I have no idea where they're spending the money, which is our obligation to find out where they're spending the ratepayers' money. because the money that we do give them belongs to the ratepayers. We just go through our accounts to pay it. We have to get something before we write them another check. And that's the way I feel about it. And because I'm tired of putting up with all this from that whole side of the valley here. We've got to have somebody take responsibility, and nobody is. And I can't see anybody taking responsibility. That's my opinion. No more money till we have something. So I don't know if that's illegal or not. If we are requesting financial records, it's got to be legal to do it until I don't want to spend no more money. So that's my opinion.
Any other board comments?
Yeah, just a couple of issues. Thank you, Stan, for keeping the pressure on this topic. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't getting any insight into the finances, and hopefully they are listening, and Carol will respond, and we'll see something, soon. The other question I have, and I was a little surprised when I went through the board packet myself about their interest in seeking a bond issue themselves, using the same revenue stream that we would have been asked to use if we had agreed to stand up a bond here.
Mr. President, as a matter of practice, we don't generally discuss matters that are on the GA agenda before the GA has an opportunity to discuss them. We've done that in the past. There's Brown Act consideration. Stan's supposed to have a clear mind going into there. So
Yeah, fair
other issues, but that's just the way we've done it in the past. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'll have to stop then, because I did have some other issues that,
I was aware of that, and I'm on top of it, thank you.
okay, good. So that wasn't a surprise to you?
Not a surprise, because they've been talking about going ahead on their own to do that, although there's no detail in what they're planning on doing, but we'll go into that tomorrow, and I'll report back next month.
Okay. I just have a couple comments I'd like to make. Stan, I would like to know, which I asked last month, how much money is in the shallow well mitigation? I think that's important to know. Ms. Decker brought up the comment, questioning the shallow wells. I think that is important to know. We've paid into it. I believe it's $17.50 per acre foot that should be in that fund. So I would like to know if there is a separate account for that, how that is accounted for, if there's a line item, if that money is there. What has the district paid to date? Do we have that total?
Don may, although I can answer the first part of your question, is yes, there is a separate column for the shallow well mitigation, it's right now revenue is going in, but there is no expenditures from it. So that's part of the problem of not identifying what line item is actually pulling money out. I've got more concern about the expenses than I do the revenue, but in that particular case, they are keeping track of that, although we did find out recently that they may have counted it incorrectly, in that they didn't necessarily add money from our replenishment fee payment of the $17.50 part of the $21.30 into the shallow well, and they put it all into what they're calling the replenishment fee, which is really the imported water fee. So there is a little bit of discrepancy there, although it's fairly minor considering everything else.
Okay.
So as far as the amount that's been paid, excuse me, we did not actually make a payment per se for the months of January, February, and part of March. As you know, we had a credit that was due. That credit amounted to $615,082.87. So if we include that with what we've actually paid, it is a total of $3,228,548.59. But if you do remove that credit amount, actual cash to the Groundwater Authority, $2,613,465.13.
Okay. So essentially, I'm going to agree with Chuck here. We've paid $3.2 million of our ratepayers' money that the ratepayers have paid us that we've passed through. And I guess we don't have anything to show for that to date. So if we could get something from them, because I want to know that that money is being spent on replenishment fee, which
And that was the purpose of our phone con.
So I'm glad you had that.
And they did indicate they were going to try to do better.
Good.
And get better definition. But all that's going to do is answer more specifically what was spent, what money was spent on what, not necessarily was the money spent properly. So that's the other issue we need to follow up on, and I guarantee you we will.
Okay. And then Stan, you brought up something at the beginning that you wanted to talk about was the extending it to 10 years.
Yes.
It was my belief also that we did have consensus that we would like to do that, but I think we had also discussed that we wanted to make sure we worked on the recycled water, that was our priority, to try to work out an agreement with recycled water, because that was the first low-hanging fruit that we could actually do something with. Does anybody have a different opinion of that, or?
Well, I see them as being separate issues. And, you know, the city has been pushing and pushing and pushing that they want to reduce the cost to the city residents and obviously all of our ratepayers. And I would too. I mean, we voted against it. We didn't vote for it. So, you know, they probably have more energy on it perhaps than we would. But the question is, I would agree that from an energy standpoint, we should be more concerned about the recycled water. On the other hand, I don't see that one way or the other impacting basically we're volunteering to work with the city to extend the time period, which would do what they want done, which is reduce the cost of the replenishment fee, basically cut it in half.
Correct, I agree with you, but maybe I'm looking at it different than you are, so if I'm wrong, correct me. But the way I'm looking at it is, if we go and we ask the GA to spread, which I brought up the idea because I think it's a good idea to do that if we can't come up with another solution. But if we spread it out over 10 years, it cuts it in half. But it creates, you know, a longer payback, but it does cut it in half without financing, with no interest. But on the other hand, if we can work together and come up with a solution to join in an agreement with the city / GA, or however we have to do it with the wastewater, that replenishment fee is gone to our rate customers, and we would not have to pay a replenishment fee to the GA anymore. So that would be my goal, would be to see if we can work out a way to work on the recycled water, join an agreement, and then we don't have the replenishment fee.
Yeah. If indeed we could pull in that condition, I totally agree.
So am I wrong
So, I
thinking
mean,
that way, or?
I'm not trying to push one thing or another. I don't want to go to them. I mean, I don't want to go to the GA tomorrow and say, you know, we're offering up this option if indeed we are, you know, if I'm perfectly happy with emphasizing the recycled water thing, again, given the condition that if we do that, then the replenishment fee gets reduced by the 2,500 acres and we're good to go. That wouldn't hurt my feelings. I just want to get a consensus of where we're going. Either way,
I think that's where we're going.
Well, that's my opinion on it.
Okay.
If anybody
No,
has a different opinion, but I think if we go for the recycled water first and we eliminate the replenishment fee, it's a win-win both ways, because our ratepayers don't have to pay the replenishment fee.
If we can get something done quickly, I would agree that's probably a better avenue.
Okay, thank you.
We've been working on this already since May 5th of last year when we sent them our first letter. So I guess we have a habit of letting things go on and on and on. And in the meantime, we're spending $2,000 an acre foot for these 2,000 acre feet of water. So we just want to make sure that we don't continue to let it go on and on and on, because it's costing our ratepayers money.
Well, I
every
think we're
month.
past those days. I think we are at the point we want answers. We want to work together, but
Sure, we can
we
see
want to
how
we
that
want to
works.
keep moving.
We can push that first, and then if we have some success there, then we can forget about the 5 to 10 year business. As far as I'm concerned, that's a better deal. I have a related concern. So originally, if I understand it, the Groundwater Authority announced that they needed $50 million to buy a Title A entitlement in the Kern County water market, and they expected that we would pay half of that. No one has identified yet who is going to pay the other half of that, given that they're given that the pistachio farmers can't afford that type of a payment for water, and that our friends in Searles Valley have told us that they are not able to cover that cost. Who is going to be required to pony that money up?
Nobody. With respect to the finance, and I believe they're talking about financing the portion of the district's need. I don't believe that the GA is inclined to go out and finance for Searles Valley and or Mojave Pistachio. If they choose not to pay the replenishment fee, then they wouldn't have imported water and presumably would not be able to pump.
So if it was a $50 million requirement to buy a Title A entitlement, and they finance 25, what's left of our contribution, the water district's customers' contribution to that fund, how are they going to get the other half of that? Are they going to?
They wouldn't need it because Searles Valley would no longer be pumping within the basin, so they wouldn't have to purchase
They
the
wouldn't have
water
to purchase
Searles
replenishment.
needs. So the need would be cut in half,
So-
approximately.
Okay, great. So then they'll have that $25 million for replenishment, and they won't need it anymore. Is that correct?
That would be the general theory.
Okay.
We've already gotten 3.5 million of that.
Yes. Well, as a side note, I don't know that anybody has sold a Title A entitlement in the last 10 years in the Kern County water market. Do you know anything about that? Is that an active possibility for them?
I don't know specifically with respect to state water project entitlement. I know that there's a lot of water sales that go on. There's a lot of banking projects that where banked water is sold. So specifically state water project entitlement, Table A, I don't know off the top of my head, but there is water being moved out there in many different forms.
But you are right, when it comes to the Table A entitlement, I don't know if it's been 10 years, but it's been 7, 8, or 9. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. The other concern that I would have is that now the infrastructure isn't going to change, the cost of the infrastructure isn't going to change from $200 million down to $100 million because we move only half as much water. So the cost to our ratepayers for that infrastructure, when you amortize it over, say, 22 or 2,300 acre feet, is going to cost a lot more than it would otherwise. So you got to look at the big picture. You can't just look at, oh, they don't need it, so we don't have to buy. Yeah, you're right, we don't have to buy the Table A entitlement, but we still have to can't put in half a pipe. That's basically the issue.
Just the bottom half anyway, right?
No, but if you had to choose one or the other,
We'd want the bottom.
You would
That'd
want
be
the
best,
bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other board comments? Okay, we will move forward then. Good luck tomorrow, Stan. 7E, General Manager and Staff Update.
Okay, starting with safety, as of today, staff has worked 164 days since the last recordable injury. In terms of production, 2 numbers I report. One is the meter production from the wells, and the other is the number that we report to the State Water Resources Control Board, which is consumption. So the meter production at the wells for the month of September, 207,374,200 gallons, 636.4 acre feet. And what we reported to the state, which is the metered water through the distribution system, as well as any non-revenue water, that total is 217,554,800 gallons, 667.7 acre feet. We did report the results for September to the state board on October 5th. Consumption was down 24.2% compared to September of 2013, which is the baseline year that the state board is using as a comparison. The 20% voluntary conservation target that was established by this board took effect in June 2016. Since that time, we have a cumulative result of 22.7, same as last month. Comparing the September's conservation to the last 4 years, again, it was 24.2% this September. In 2020, it was 21% lower. 2019, 16.1% lower. 2018, 10% lower. And 2017, 11.9% lower. And we also report to the state board each month the residential gallons per capita per day. And for the month of September, that was 180.7. I'll remind you again, that is both indoor and outdoor consumption. We had 3 new connections added during the month. So for the fiscal year, which began July 1st, we've had 15 new connections. And those new connections have contributed $101,358 in capital facility fees. Any questions on that portion? Okay. Public outreach. I was able to physically attend this month's Community Collaborative meeting. Actually, it was the first time I was there since March 3rd, 2020. During the height of the pandemic, the meeting wasn't held at all, and then lately it's been virtually attended. So I reported on a number of things. I did report that Governor Newsom extended Executive Order N42-20, which prohibits shut-off of service due to non-payment. It was set to expire September 30th. He has extended it to December 31st. So I mentioned that and also the impact it's had on the water district, which Ty will report on later. I also mentioned our solar contractor, Engie, had energized a solar field at Well 35 on September 20th. I mentioned the annual financial audit was going to be taking place this week, and also that the draft 2020 general plan had been presented at the August 5th special board workshop is being updated and will be presented at a future workshop to be scheduled. Finally, I did mention the supply chain issue that we're experiencing with copper pipe. We basically ran out of copper pipe, so in making repairs to service laterals, we're going back to using polyethylene pipe. We have been, over the last few years, replacing polyethylene with copper. There's an issue that studies have shown that failures on the polyethylene pipe can result from the type of disinfectant that's in use, the average service temperature, the concentration of the disinfectant, and operating pressure. And so what we've seen primarily during the summer, when the temperatures are higher, we get the little cracks in the polyethylene pipe, and so we've been, for the past several years, replacing with copper. I'm not sure, have we gotten a date yet when copper's supposed to be arriving?
Originally it was October 4th, and now it's either mid-October to late October. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen on the news all the supply chain issues that are, it's everything. Probably. Yeah. There's an interesting story on CBS Sunday morning. I watch that on each Sunday, and they focused on this issue. And they were just showing on the East Coast the number of shipping containers piled up one on top of another. I guess what they're saying is the issue is getting the truck drivers to actually hook them up and to deliver them to the warehouses, and then for the warehouses to distribute the items. So it's everything. It's computers, it's appliances. I mean,
Can't get appliances.
yeah.
That means we need to make American.
There was one other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of outreach. And just today, we were notified by ACWA, Association of California Water Agencies, that we are the recipient for the Region 7 Outreach Award. So this is the 6th year out of the last 9 that we've been awarded that. So it's typically presented at the fall ACWA conference. I wasn't sure if we're having somebody attending, so they're going to actually mail the award to us. And they've asked that we have a photo taken with probably President Griffin and myself accepting the award, or the whole board accepting the award, and send it to ACWA. So I was quite surprised that we got it. I mean, we've been responding when we get legislative alerts. We've been sending letters. But about a month ago, ACWA sent an email asking us to fill out an application to apply, and they wanted to know how many legislators you've contacted, how many meetings you've had. It's a pretty onerous form to fill out, and I didn't even bother to fill it out, but I guess. but we got the award.
So you mean we won despite your efforts?
Just despite my efforts, we got the award, yes.
Well, congratulations to you and to the employees of the district. That's well done, sir. Well done.
Okay, moving on. Next item is a special board workshop, and we have one item as a result of that workshop, and that's the assignment was to work with Krieger and Stewart and Tim Parker to provide a preliminary report and recommendation at a future committee meeting on possible exploration from the El Paso area, including determination if it's new water or not. In last month's meeting, we did present a draft to the board. There were some comments made and some revisions to be made. We don't have it available, but I believe Mr. Krieger's on the phone, and he's available to give us an update on where they're at with the revision. Are you out there, Chuck?
I'm here. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We got you. We can hear you, Chuck.
Hello? I believe you can hear me because Renee told me earlier I needed to stop chewing crackers on my microphone. So
Go ahead.
He must not be able to hear us. Go ahead, Chuck.
okay, I just went to the YouTube page where I heard myself telling the cracker story. I do not have audio coming back, so I'm going to present a really quick little update on the project here without expecting response, and I apologize if I'm screwing up the technology. Pursuant to the board's request at the workshop in August, Krieger and Stewart worked with Tim Parker to provide an outline of the steps that could be taken to better define and understand the hydrology and hydraulics of the El Paso Basin. And in accordance with that, we created a kind of a talking points report that has been reviewed and with the committee, and discussions with the committee yielded some direction that Tim and KNS were to take, including refining some of the cost estimates for the definition, or to enhance the definition of the basin's boundaries, the depths to bedrock, and other relevant hydrogeological information, together with the types of in-field actual physical exploration work that is related to monitoring wells and perhaps production wells. So estimates of how much water is in storage and what kind of yield characteristics could be determined from that work. So we are in the process of preparing a little bit more elaboration on the types of geophysical and seismic reflection surveys that Tim has identified. And if he were here, I'm sure he'd make sure to impress upon everybody that some of this work, either with the surveys or with the monitoring wells, would hopefully be financed in part by DWR, and that we would then go to, after we identified areas where we think, based on Tim's studies, identify areas that we think would justify more physical exploration, such as the drilling, zone testing, water quality testing, and other physical exploration to help define the type of resource that might be up there. We're still working on that. We plan on having it ready in the next few weeks, and certainly before the next board meeting. And with that, I'm going to go back to YouTube to see if you guys have any questions or comments for me.
Chuck, you should be able to hear us now. Maybe not.
Can you hear us, Chuck?
information? I think I can hear you now.
Can you hear Chuck?
Well, while
Okay,
we're-
well,
I'm on YouTube right now, Chuck. Pardon me. When I go back to my cell phone connection, I don't have audio. I'll try it again right now.
Okay, let us know if you can hear. If not, we'll just kind of say no questions,
No
I guess,
questions.
and we'll anticipate your report next month. I'm guessing he cannot hear us.
So if I could just, I need to go back one more public outreach item, if I could. I neglected to mention, the Petroglyph Festival, which was canceled last year. It's on this year for November 6th and 7th, and we will have a booth there. And as I've said before, it's an excellent outreach opportunity, not only for members of the community, but you get visitors from out of town that always seem to ask questions about local water issues as well. So I think we have it fully staffed, right, Lauren? Right, so we look forward to having a booth and being actively engaged with the community again at that event.
All right, thank you. Chuck, did you hear us at all? Judy, I will have public comment on Don's report as soon as he's done with his report before we move forward. Then you can ask your questions. Yes, I agree. I understand. Yep, we will do that. Okay, so Don is done with his report. So now I'll open up to public comment for anything that Don reported on.
The El Paso Basin, are you considering seismic? I don't know if that's the right term. It's like what Frank Montecero did some years ago.
Yes.
Help me out, David.
You mean geoseismic surveys of the
Yes.
area? Yeah. mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And do you have the information on the well that was drilled by the GA with the DWR money?
Yes, we have that information. And also your first question about the seismic, the map that was included with the draft report last month, I believe that had indications of where seismic lines existed. So it's being considered, it's being considered to answer your question.
Okay.
To reprocess it. Much,
And I offer you this caution. As you know, my husband Don was out there when that well was drilled. And the money came from one of the propositions, 68 maybe. And they had a DWR well drilling contractor drill the well. I strongly recommend that you do not do that.
Thank you, Judy. And I would agree with you. Okay, we will move, if there is no more public comment, we'll close that part and we'll move on to Well 35 update. Okay.
Well, 35. Okay. All right. At this point with Well 35, we were hoping to bring it to the board this month, but it wasn't until last Friday that Pacific Hydrotech was able to get up here and get those last few punch list items done, which they did complete last Friday. So we do expect it to come to the board for acceptance of contract work next month. There is one other item that we are working with Krieger and Stewart. It's not going to be something Pacific Hydrotech is responsible for, which is getting another relay that installed that seemed to have been left out of the original plan. So we're working with Krieger and Stewart to get that installed. And that's an important item that needs to get done. So, but other than that, Pacific Hydrotech has finished up their punch list items as of last Friday. So that's all I have on 35. And you know, obviously NG has the solar plant online. So
Thank you.
I will move on if you would like. Well 33, I don't have much new from last month. The video inspection that we had with Best Drilling and Pump didn't have any aha moments, didn't reveal any obvious source of the gravel pack intrusion. So we're waiting to schedule with Best with 2 S's, a sand/gravel invasion survey, and we're trying to schedule it at the time they're going to be up here working on items for the brackish water project also, so that they can do both things at the same time. So I'm waiting to hear back from them on the schedule. They had originally indicated this month. Hopefully it can still be this month, but at this point, I'm not sure. So, because I do need to give Best Drilling and Pump some time to get the temporary pump up here and get that scheduled.
How is that effort different than the last videos scanning that they did?
Well, we're going to be videoing while there's a pump running. We're going to be able to turn the pump on and off, try to chase where the gravel pack is coming from. Right now, we were just hoping to see a hole or something, in the casing, which we didn't see.
So you did it stagnant before, but now with
Yeah, this is
pumping,
just the water stagnant.
drawing, you'll be able to see where the intrusion's at.
Yep.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Cal OES reimbursement, we're just waiting on that last check. We haven't received it yet, but all the other items are completed and their final report has been submitted. So I'm just waiting on that last check. That's it. So hopefully by next month we'll have it. The next 2 items kind of go hand in hand. These 2 projects, they are actually going to be, the notice inviting bid is going into the paper tomorrow. They'll be tomorrow and on the 20th. So these are out to bid officially as of tomorrow. Bids are due for the booster station project November 17th and for the reservoirs November 18th. And so they will come before the board in December.
Renee, are we posting those online also on our water district page?
I have not yet, but I can. Yeah.
I would maybe like
No,
to see
normally
that.
I do, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. We just got the final wording approved, so.
Good. Thank you.
Mhm.
So that pretty much completes yours, is that correct? Oh, okay. Any public comment on Renee's reports? Okay, we'll move forward to Ty.
All right, for the financial report. Through September, we had total revenues received of 4.8 million, which was 616,000 greater than the budget. On the expenditure side, we had 4.3 million, which is just under 200,000 less than budget. So our net currently is 550,000, which is 800,000 better than budget. For capital expenditures, we have 151,000. Of that, 39,000 was funded by the COPs, and debt service principal of 278,000. Going on to the lock-offs, in September, we would have had 360 accounts subject to the lock-off absent the moratorium, which is an increase of 58 accounts from the previous month. The past due amount increased from 195,000 to 238,000. The state did release the guidelines in the application process for the arrearage program that we can apply for bills between March 4th of 2020 through, I think it's the end of July of 2021. So any of those unpaid account balances, we can apply for funding from the state. In order to receive that funding, we have to waive all the late fees for those accounts within that time period. So we're working on compiling that information right now.
Okay, so if we do that, then in turn that would relieve the customers?
Yes, we'd have to apply it directly to their accounts.
Yeah, we would be reimbursed for the actual accrued bills, but not any late fees or penalties.
Yeah, those would have to be waived.
Okay, thank you.
We'd get 3% of the total for administrative costs.
Better than nothing.
But if we wait and we don't do that, then the customers would need to pay the bills.
Right, they would, once the moratorium lift and they still had a balance on their account, then they would be subject to shut-offs.
Okay. Because I would almost rather see the district pursue, maybe reach out to those. I know you guys have done a great job at that. I'm not in any way insinuating that, but I believe that if people are truly affected, then they need the help, and I understand that. But I believe there's people that may not be affected that are just saying, "Oh, I don't have to pay right now." And if that's happening, I don't think it's right for the district to take a hit and all the other customers compensate the other ones that didn't pay their bill because they didn't want to pay their bill. Because I don't believe everybody should just get a free lunch because COVID hit, So I think maybe it would benefit the district if we looked at it and said, well, do you have a condition or was there a problem? And I know it would take some staff time, but if there is truly an issue, then we need to help them out as much as we can. But I don't know.
Do we have an input with regard to, that is, if we are owed $400,000, but we only get $300,000, can we determine who gets reimbursed?
Right now, they're saying they have more money available than organizations that filled out the survey that was due last month. So they have extra money, so anything we apply for at this point, we'd get 100% of.
I'm not real familiar with the program, but I'm not sure that you would be allowed to pick and choose who you apply as opposed to treating everybody equally. And you're never going to find out whether they're truly in need or not. So a program like that is probably an equal application among the district customers, I suspect.
Yeah, I guess I struggle with that a little bit.
Well,
Because I hate for the district to say to our ratepayers that are paying their bills that, hey, look, you didn't have to do it. So now we're going to get a grant and we're going to cover it all for everybody. And we got people that work hard every day to pay their bill. So I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, we had our own internal conflict.
And I'm thinking that's why they're not getting a bunch of people applying for that reason, because it's not fair to every other ratepayer that works their butt off to pay their bill.
Well, there's the risk of an unintended consequence also. If we get money and we cover their bills, then there may encourage others to
Not pay their
to
bill.
not pay, thinking that they're going to get a free water bill as well.
Yeah, next crisis.
Yeah.
Or,
So I kind of struggle with it a little bit.
yeah.
Well, and I imagine that's why, I'm just guessing, but I believe that's why the governor also extended that moratorium to December 31st.
Because
So he
we
could
as
get
a
that
water
place.
district are gonna work with any customer that did not pay their bill during that time. If they come in and say, we wanna make payments, we wanna work it out with you.
Correct, and then for all the people who are renting, the renters, we gave them all the information so that they could go apply with the county for help, and we haven't received a single request from the county to substantiate any bills.
Okay.
Well, when the government announced the, continuation of the program, didn't ours shoot up about 50 grand? Our receivables?
Well, it went up, over 40,000 in the last month. I don't know if that's totally due to that, but
A lot of it's gotta be. Well, we're not gonna have to pay if we get in this program.
But any of that new amount isn't covered by the arrearage. It
Only
had to
till
be,
July.
right, through July.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it ended in July, so. Okay. So I guess what I'm asking you then, Ty, before we apply for that, will you bring that back to the board so we can have a discussion? Or is that something that you're gonna apply for now, or?
Yeah, we can bring it back. It's due December 6th. We're going to try to get everything wrapped up, maybe before the next board meeting, so I can bring
Okay,
that
so if
back.
we could do that, if we could put it on as an agenda item, I would like to do that so we could discuss it.
Sure.
Make a vote, maybe.
I would suggest that the money that we lose in not getting the late fees might be less than not getting paid back because if people can't pay it back, and we have to go out and try to get the money and then only get 50 cents on the dollar. So I agree with your ethical conundrum there, but I think from an overall budgetary standpoint, we're better off getting the most money we can, and that's probably through just giving everybody the benefit of the doubt.
I think we're all in violent agreement on that point, yeah.
Part of that talking points at the next meeting, Ty, if you could help us break down a little bit, how many of those accounts continue to be in arrears or continue to increase their arrearment from July? Because program covers people that weren't paying up till July, but not from the rest of the year.
Right.
So if you could, is that possible that you could?
As in strictly as just a number of how many accounts? I mean, I'm not going to identify any individual.
Yeah, I don't
accounts.
want to know an individual, but yeah, just in
Sure.
terms of dollars.
What
and-
percentage and what, okay.
Right.
We'll see what we can do.
Thanks.
Yeah, but we did not have an arrears problem before COVID. I mean, we had disconnects, notices, but most people paid, and then
Yeah.
we did not have,
It was, yeah, a small
did not
fraction
have an
of what
issue
we have
because
here.
they didn't pay the bill, their water got turned
There's
off.
consequences, right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't, I agree with Stan 100%, but in my head, I have a hard time saying, don't pay your bill and it's okay.
Yeah.
So that's my struggle. So, okay. All right, thank you, Ty. Go ahead and move forward.
Okay. Another item we wanted to bring to your attention, this falls under Don's spending limit, but we had two vehicles scheduled to be purchased in this current fiscal year. One was for the maintenance supervisor, and that was done, I believe, a month and a half ago. It was a like new condition vehicle that we saved a bunch of money on that we were able to purchase. The next one is a replacement for the vac truck and just the vehicle. The vac machine is still in good working condition. We've replaced parts on it. So we're looking at purchasing the replacement truck. We did solicit for bids, and the lowest one was $45,915. And so we're just bringing that to your attention, and that was with Jim Burke Ford.
Yeah, there's no approval needed. I mean, it's within my financial authority, and it's also within our budget,
was
so
gonna say, you
just more
sold it.
for information.
Ty, is that because of air pollutions? Is that why that truck's being released, because of air pollution?
No, that one's just a maintenance trouble.
Okay,
It just
okay.
keeps falling apart. And then just to let you know, the last vehicle we did purchase for the maintenance supervisor was locally here at Jim Charlon.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So,
It's great. to
Yeah, I was
support
looking
local.
at that. Is that the $47,000 expenditure to
yeah.
Jim Charlton Ford? Okay.
That's great. Thank you for doing that.
That's all I have on finance. For solar through September, we had let's see, where are we at? Right, we had an actual savings in September of 42,000, which came in below the guaranteed savings of 44.8. I imagine most of that's due to the smoke. It was a very smoky month. There's also an inverter that I don't know if it's been replaced yet, but is scheduled to be replaced in the near future, and that may have some effect on it. But through this fiscal year, we have a savings of 132,879. And now we have the next solar generation at Well 35 online as well.
Thank you.
Hey, Ty, on that plant that we just finished for the 652,000 or whatever it was, how many kilowatts is that, or watts, or how big is that system?
It's a very good question. I don't know.
Okay, I was trying to figure out, did we get a good deal or we didn't get a good deal? So,
Yeah, it was money. Ultimately, we had the money sitting in the account that had to be used towards a solar type project, and we had the space, and we're already doing work at 35. We can get that number for you though. I'm
be
not
curious.
sure.
We can't, get it back now, but
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ty.
And then conservation for calendar year 2021, we've received 113 water waste reports, made 113 contacts, seven formal warning actions issued, and 2 penalties issued.
Thank you. Any public comments on Ty's presentation? Okay, move forward to Jason.
For the SCADA system, the district has completed the site acceptance test for the arsenic plant 1, wells 11, 13, and 35, sent them back to ATSI, and ATSI is currently reviewing the changes the district made, and hopefully we'll have those changes back to us within a couple weeks. We still are on track to present it to the board for full acceptance in the November board meeting. Okay. Arsenic treatment facilities. Late this afternoon, I did get an email from PureFlow, which is who are looking to have the replacement of the under drain through. We will be going over the scope of the work and the cost and seeing how that fits into the capital improvement budget, and hopefully we'll have a report to you next month.
All right, thank you.
For the month of September, the plant 1 did 4,379,000 gallons, and plant 2 did 7,509,000 gallons. Still plant 2. Operations for the month of September, we had 15 lateral replacements and 27 replacements and 15 repairs. And we ran the NODES 11 times, saving 146,790 gallons, bringing our grand total to 8,257,865 gallons saved. And we turned 38 valves, bringing our grand total for the year to date to 539.
Thank you. Any public comments on Jason's report? Okay, this time we'll move forward to board comments and future agenda items. Stan?
Thank you. I just have one comment. I've had numerous members of the public ask me about the adjudication workshops. So I hope we can follow through on that and actually get those scheduled, as well as an agenda or something, an outline of the topics to be covered in the near future. Thank you.
I've kind of been negative all night, and I guess it's going to continue. Reading some stuff about our county representation, he's constantly attacking our management, our staff, and including threats. I would like to make a motion for the board to ask for him to be replaced with the county supervisor's office. Several statements that we just read were incorrect, and I want to do something about it. I think that tonight's a good night to bring that up because we have our whole board together, and we have not been treated right whatsoever by this guy. I'm talking about Phil Hall. The board's not talking about him, but I am.
I remind the board that this is a board comment and should not delve
Exactly.
into
Yeah,
a,
this is my board comment.
if that's a request that you've got to put it on agenda, then that would be the way to handle it and go no further with the discussion.
That could go a long ways, though,
Okay, any other?
That's it for me.
So the Water District did well. The staff performed beautifully during the earthquake in 2019. I would like to take this opportunity to remind members of the public and, of course, acknowledge the Water District's enhancements and improvements that I think will continue to serve them in the future should there be an adverse event such as an earthquake on the San Andreas Fault. But for the folks at home, please be sure to have 30 days of food in your house. I believe the Water District will continue to supply you with water. But if you're concerned about that, you'd like to keep about enough water for a week. It's a gallon per person or pet per day. And that's just, I think, a wise precaution. And anything could happen. And we are expecting another earthquake. When, we don't know, but it's overdue. So please do take preparations seriously, because the San Andres is at closest approach 90 miles from us, does not mean we're going to get significant shaking. And given that earthquake and the expected magnitude, it's likely that all of the efforts for rescue and supply will be going to the LA Basin, and we'll be fairly much on our own. Thank you.
Thank you. Now my wife's not going to sleep tonight. Thank you.
Can say on that pleasant thought. I would just underscore David's comments. We adopted that philosophy ourselves at our home, and it's important to rotate the water. So once you set up your gallons of water that you set aside, replenish them. Don't store them for 2 years and then go to drink out of it thinking it's safe. Otherwise, you're going to have to boil it, and otherwise. The big headache for me for the past month has been adjudication encounters in the valley. It's not a comfortable discussion. I know some of you have had it as well. I feel really hamstrung on being able to discuss it because we don't have our talking points. So I am too looking forward to that. I'm glad we've got some encouragement from Jim that we've got something coming soon. The sooner the better.
Okay, thank you. And I want to, whole thing I want to make a comment is the same comment as Stan and Director Boyd, that the adjudication is the question, so we will be getting something out there very quickly. We want the public to be involved and know what's going on 100%. So with that.
One last comment?
Go ahead.
Just one last comment. If you're counting on your pool or your hot tub for water, please don't do that. That is not suitable for cooking or drinking. In fact, it could kill you. And you can bathe in that and flush your toilet, but don't count on your pool or your hot tub. Do not drink that water. Do not cook with that water. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, it is 7:26. We will adjourn and go to closed session at 7:40. Thank you.
Won't be the only one, I can assure you.
Nope. Okay, it's 9:41. Let's call this meeting back to order. Jim, did you have anything to report?
The board met with staff and legal counsel on the items under a closed session. No action was taken that requires disclosure under the Brown Act. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, meeting's adjourned, 9:42.